The curvature calculator is not accurate to the what we see. So when travel through the Earth,
So P waves and S waves.
yes,
Oh, right. So they're accurate then.
yes, they are.
So why, when they dig the Kola deep, how do they call it? Super deep borehole, why did they get it wrong?
They didn't.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
They got it wrong. The P waves and S waves said they'd hit a certain material and they were wrong. Did you not know that? You want to deny it again?
I didn't know that.
Oh, really? So yet again, the globe believer's the most ignorant person here. What shock. Yeah, P waves and S waves didn't give you your R value. You're wrong again. So, back to the same question. You've asserted mass centre of, that's an R value. Didn't get it from P waves and S waves, that's for damn sure. So you haven't got an R value. Centre of M1 you haven't got. You haven't got R. Hello? Your crap that
Hold
you've
on.
been peddling has been annihilated. Hello?
Hold on.
I'm holding. I'm bated breath. Still holding.
You asked me how did they got the R? They measured the diameter at the equator of the Earth was 12,756 kilometers.
Oh, excellent. What's the equator? What's the equator exactly?
The equator is right between the tropics of Cancer and the tropics of Capricorn. That is right in the middle of of the Earth.
How'd you decide that? How'd you derive that?
Because the equator is where the sun at the
Sorry, sun. Sorry, I'm very confused. Sorry, circumference. Now you're talking about the sun. That's very confusing.
was met.
Sorry, you don't seem to be listening to me. You told me that you measured the circumference of Earth and talked about an equator. I asked you what the equator was, and now you're talking about what the sun does. That's very confusing.
I'm trying to describe how did they measure it, and you
Sorry, measure
you
what?
interrupted me
Sorry,
on
measure
that.
what? This is a position on the ground, is it? Because you seem to be detailing what the sun does. Measure what? The sun?
They
So
use
not a circumference from the ground then. Moreover, the movement of the sun. That's what the equator is. The movements of the sun averaged then. Not a position on the ground.
is where the sun is.
Yeah, I know. It's the sun that you're detailing now, and I'm saying that's confusing, given that you're telling me that you're measuring a circumference, the equator, and then when I ask what the equator is, you tell me it's something the sun does.
Equator is an imaginary line. Right?
Oh, imaginary. You're measuring the imaginary line circumference, are you? Oh, dear.
But they still measure.
Imaginary? They're just still measuring that imaginary line, are they? Sorry, are we going to get this R value from Imagination Land? Imagination Land, right? They still can measure this imaginary line.
No.
No? So failure number 2. So not P waves and S waves, and not an imaginary line either. So you haven't got R.
What he's claiming there is Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes measured a flat diameter to Earth, which would be close to 25,000 miles in his, going by the conversion of the best they can from state days to feet and miles and whatever, would be a flat diameter of 25,000 miles. But then he supposedly decided that the sun rays were parallel and not divergent, even though we've never seen anything but divergent sun rays. And then he decided to match it to maths that he already had from Pythagoras and say it's a globe. So how can you measure a flat diameter, then state that the sun is something or doing something that it's not, and then correlate that with mathematics that you already have from a guy from years ago before you and state it's a globe? That's what happened. And it's funny that the globe out the equator line is the same distance, more or less, as the flat diameter that he would have originally measured.
Well, I'm just wondering why they don't go to the curvature calculator anymore. It's almost like that's been debunked or something.
The curvature calculator is not accurate to the what we see.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
It's not. The Earth is not flat.
Sorry, the curvature calculator doesn't match what we see, and what it says we see is curvature.
Right. You're claiming you can't see physical geometry. That's really nice.
So it doesn't represent how much in feet and inches the physical Earth curve edge horizon would block things. It doesn't do that. Yeah, that's what we say. Of course, globe believers say that it does show that. You seem to be somewhere in between, limbo between thinking that the curve calculator shows you how much the horizon blocks things, and then realizing that the image on screen, the black swan, shows beyond all certitude that you don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. So the curve calculator definitely does assert that the horizon gets in the way of things because it's Earth curve. It's just we've debunked that.
It's all a load of nonsense without R, man. You just got to realize that.
Yes, it means proven wrong, or pretty much, yeah, proven wrong.
Yeah, so the curve calculator asserts that the Earth curve is represented at the horizon. We have proven that wrong with the black swan. Do you want to tell me how it doesn't represent what we see again? Because that's what it's claimed to do. Represent what we see? It doesn't. It's a side profile view of the side of your own head, which you never get. So we already knew it didn't represent what we see, but of course that's what it's claimed to do. It was compared to photographs. For example, several years ago we had people coming and telling us that a physical geometric sphere edge that they drew tangents to in their maths blocked the bottom of the Isle of Man to a certain tune of feet and inches values. That they argued about how much or how little there should be blocked at the physical geometric sphere edge horizon claimed in that maths you say doesn't represent what we see. Yeah, welcome to flat Earth.
Again, Earth is not flat.
Now chant it. It hasn't got curvature. So, yeah, without the curvature, we're left with the obvious and observable, which is that it's flat, how it's measured. So, just chanting it, hand wave dismissal, if it was spherical, we'd have curve, and we don't.
So basically, he's admitting that geometric limitations prove the Earth is not a sphere, but at the same time, he's claiming it's not flat.
That's the denying the measurements of flatness.
Of course.
That's all that is.
He
Denying what
typifies
measure.
anti-flat earther. So he's just told us, he's a globe believer, so he thinks, that the curve calculator, the thing that's supposed to calculate how much curve you will see at the horizon, and how many feet and inches of drop at the horizon, all of those things are what the calculator claims we see. Says a globe believer. This man says, quote, the curve calculator does not represent what we see. So he's an anti-flat earther. You know, he's bracing against our rebuttal that demolishes the claim that the calculator's what we see. So therefore he's got to go against that now. Why? Well, because we say it. So it doesn't matter that his statement that it's not what we see is basically worthy of welcome to flat earth then. So not what we see. Oh, right, not earth curve then, as shown in the geometry. Oh, no, it's not flat. That's his response. That's all he's got. Just doesn't want to be part of the club that he probably thinks this is, rather than appreciating that the world he's been presented with and told he lives on has no curvature.
Like I said, Earth is not flat.
Yet you just keep chanting that. Well, show us curve then.
Just posted in.
Sorry, if it's not flat, do you want to show us some curvature?
You can see the curvature when you look at the distance and see that the objects would be disappearing beyond the horizon.
So the horizon is a physical geometric sphere edge then? No, we've debunked that. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. As per the geometric, begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. And the images of the black swan demonstrate beyond all certitude that the limitation claimed to be a physical horizon is beyond the limitations of the geometry of a sphere, Earth radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not physical Earth curve. So no, we've debunked the horizon as a physical Earth curve edge. So to say, oh, I can see curvature at the horizon, is you telling me that the horizon is now Earth curve, like in your Earth curve maths? So in your Earth curve maths, it says the horizon's going to block things. But you've also told us that that maths doesn't represent what we see. Cognitive dissonance much?
Maybe he thinks he can see it, but just not calculate it somehow.
The curve calculator doesn't represent what we see. How the hell are you going to claim that the blockage at the horizon is Earth curve, as per the maths that you say doesn't represent what we see? You seem to be in cognitive dissonance, my friend. It can't both not be what we see and be your claim that the physical geometry is blocking things. Meanwhile, we've debunked it with the black swan. It's beyond all limitations of a geometric sphere edge horizon. It's not.
Show me the picture that debunked the Earth's curvature.
It's called the black swan. It shows the horizon beyond 9.6 miles when at the limitations of a geometry that you assert in the maths that you say doesn't represent what we see now, because you're an anti-flat earther, it would be at 1.2 miles. So the physical limitation of your view based on the geometry would be at 1.2 miles in that image, and it's beyond 10 miles, beyond things that should be obscured by it. Now, if the response to that is that it's refracted, then you can no longer use it to gain tangents to do the geometry as per the depiction on screen. So the depiction on screen is the Metabunk curve calculator that shows a straight line, that would be the geometric requirement for this model, tangent to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, blocking things with a value that they'll give with a hidden attribution at feet or meters values. So this is a claim that the horizon blocks things into the distance. If that was the case, then this would be the limitation to your view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. The black swan shows it's beyond that. Therefore, this geometry is no longer capable of being done, because the response is to say that this line required to do the geometry, called the tangent, is in fact bent. Therefore, no longer capable of being utilised as a tangent. Bye-bye globe geometry, black swan.